Over the last 3 years, I've spoken with over 1,000 crypto founders. The exact number is 1,702, according to my Canly event. And in that time, I've seen some of those take off like rockets, but I've seen most of them completely crash and burn. But it wasn't random. There was a pattern that all the projects that succeeded shared, and one that all the projects that failed also shared. The projects that took off followed what I call to be the 7 immutable laws of marketing. And those who did not follow them. These are the laws, just like the laws of gravity, that you cannot escape. If you try to avoid them, you will fail. And if you follow them, you will give yourself a fighting chance. In this video, I'm going to be telling you what are these 7 immutable laws of Web3 marketing. These are not going to be surface level concepts. These are going to be tactical insight that you can implement today in your project. By the way, I'm Leon Aboud. I'm the founder and CEO at Unfungible. What we do is we help projects grow and scale their brand presence and authority in crypto using marketing strategies that last. I make these videos for you for free so you can have a fighting chance at helping build the future of this industry together. And my goal is that you one day grow to the point where you can reach out to us and see if we can potentially help you with your marketing. If you think you're at that stage, make sure you apply on the website www.unfungible.xyz. Link is going to be below. Now, the very first law that makes or break a crypto project is the law of leadership, which is one that I've been speaking about quite often lately. That's how important it is. So the law of leadership says that the winner takes all in this space. And what the projects that have failed all have in common is that they've all positioned themselves as a Me Too brand. They're the type of brand that has their marketing being like, we are another DEX, we are another marketplace, we are another product that you've already heard about 10 times, but we are better. They're a Me Too brand and their only value proposition is better. But the truth about the law of leadership is that it is always better to be first than it is to be better. I was just yesterday speaking with one of our longtime clients. He's been with us for close to a year now. Absolutely great relationship that I have with him. He currently in a position where he is dominating his specific niche. He is number one in terms of revenue. He is making great money. He has a very good product, and he is number one in a very specific chain. And that chain is like top 50 coin market cap. What he's been trying to do is trying to go and copy paste his business model in these other chains. So he's been wanting to try to tap into the Solana liquidity. He's been trying to go after the AVAX liquidity. He's been trying to go after these new chains that are popping up and have all that volume on them. So I explained something to him. I was like, in crypto, here's how crypto works with the law of leadership. In crypto, what you end up having is you have all these categories that open up, and you end up getting the number ones and number two players in these categories. This does not only apply in crypto. If you are to think in the world of beverages, you have Coca-Cola and Pepsi, Samsung, iPhone. In a mature industry, you end up having players that compete with one another, and over time, you end up with a duopoly. So 2 players dominate the majority of the market. And then you have smaller players that are fighting for like 1 to 3% of market share. And the problem with that founder, what he was trying to do and what I tried to explain to him is he was already number one in his ecosystem right here. And what he was trying to do is he was trying to go and take over the number one or number two spot in an existing ecosystem. But the hard thing and the law of leadership says that once you are number one, once you've become the first at top of mind, the first that people use, it is very hard to dethrone the number one. Let's unpack this a little bit because I think this is very important. Let's take the example of the chain wars. We've had Bitcoin become the number one blockchain because it is the number one blockchain. It's the first to ever come out. Then we've had ETH take the number one throne for smart blockchains. So smart contracts, programmable blockchains. So smart blockchains. They became number one and they have the throne for this. Although they're not the only chain, they are not the only L1 where you can build smart contracts on. They've taken the throne for that. And then we have Solana. So right here, number one, Sol, who have taken the throne of high speed high, low cost blockchain. They took the first. Again, they are not the only ones. They're probably not the best ones at doing so, but they have taken the throne of being the number one at this. And then you have smaller players that are trying to compete with those, but the law of leadership says that it's going to be very difficult to do so. Now, here's what's interesting. Even under each of these ecosystems, we have multiple sub-niches that have opened up. We have number one marketplace on Ethereum. We have number one DEX on Ethereum, Uniswap, for example. We have number one meme coin deployer on Ethereum. And then same thing on Solana. We have a duplication of these specific industries where we have, for example, the number one NFT marketplace on Ethereum is OpenSea. The number one NFT marketplace on Solana is Magic Eden. And although they try to take market share away from each other, it's like a magnet. The market keeps bringing them back to where they were. Blur tried to take number one spot from OpenSea. Didn't work out. Now that Blur's incentive campaigns are behind us, OpenSea is back to the number one spot. So even under chains, we start seeing number one, number two, number three spots evolve. And the problem with most crypto founders is that they try to become, they are a number 10 in an industry and they expect to have the results of the number one. The law of leadership says that this will not work, and the easiest path forward for you to succeed is to find a way to position yourself as the number one in a certain category. And the way to do so is by either finding a new ecosystem that is opening up. For example, you could have easily become number one decentralized exchange on Berachain that recently launched, and they have a lot of hype, they have a lot of volume. There was a new DEX that became number one for Berachain. That was someone who looked at the market and saw an opportunity at being number one. So what are these up and coming ecosystems that you can look at and you can bet on? Number two is you can create something that is new and unique that will allow you to become number one. And here's the thing, what I was saying to that founder. That founder has a great platform, like really good platform. And I asked him, I was like, what's the competitive advantage of your platform? He was like, man, we have all these gamified features. I look at him, I'm like, your gamified features are great, by the way, stellar. But this is not a unique selling proposition. Someone is not going to switch and you are not going to become number one just by having gamified features. You need to invent a new category in the marketplace to become number one. The gamified features can help with reducing customer acquisition costs. It can help with increasing lifetime value of customers. But this is not how you go from number 15 to number one, for example. Pump Fun came in and they completely changed the meme coin market by creating a product that is new. They became the number one meme coin deployer. Although the concept of trading meme coins was very common. If you remember PancakeSwap in the previous bull market, I was degen trading on PancakeSwap 5 years ago. They came in and instead of creating just another meme coin trading terminal, they created a meme coin deployer. And they were the first of their kind. And that is how they became number one. So this is the first law, the law of leadership. Don't try to be a Me Too company. Instead, find ways to become the first and number one in your specific niche and your specific industry. The second law of crypto that we have is the law of the narrative. The truth is, crypto is narrative driven. Like it or not, you are either building with the narrative or against it. And few are the projects that have the ability to create their own narrative. And that is the ultimate goal. But something that most projects seem to overlook is they overlook the importance of the narrative that they are building in and end up launching a narrative that is not as hyped or not as exciting, expecting exciting results. While we have founders and projects that are launching with a really bad product or no product at all in a narrative that is super hyped, super exciting, and then they end up doing very well. And this is one of these hard things that a lot of founders don't want to accept because it's out of their control. It's like, bro, yeah, but I'm still going to launch my Web3 gaming chain, although 100 of those failed behind you. In crypto, speculation creates hype, but then narrative sustains that hype. And narratives are nothing but stories that are repeated long enough for them to become accepted. That is what a narrative is. And the way we suggest our clients to think through this problem is to find narratives that are already hot that people can hitchhike on, and then evolving into a place where you become your own narrative. Pudgy Penguins, for example, started off as an NFT collection. They picked up and they built that original core community because of the NFT narrative that existed. Because remember, before Pudgy Penguin was even acquired, they had somewhat of a dormant but strong community. That's what Luca Net saw, and he was like, I'm going to acquire this. But then they had that cocoon of people that they were able to build their own narrative with, which is crypto IP. They are now the number one crypto IP brand. And then going back to the law of the category, we've tried to see a lot of companies try to become the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth crypto IP brand. And of course, not as exciting. No same results as Pudgy Penguins, even though a lot of them probably have great products. One practical example that I often give is one of our partners built their chain to be a gaming-centric chain. Because of this, they have very fast transaction speed. They do 1 million transactions per second. 1 million transactions per second, imagine. But then the gaming meta kind of lost its steam. So the narrative that they're now trying to build on is that of real-world use cases. If you want everyday people to use a chain, it has to be fast. You can't sit there and wait for the transaction to pass. And that's kind of the narrative that they're trying to go after, which makes sense, and they're doing amazingly well, like top 3 biggest launches right now. But please do not underestimate the importance of a narrative. I've seen this be the graveyard of a lot of founders where they underestimate the importance of a narrative and then they go to die on the field. The third law of marketing, and this is honestly one of my favorite ones, and it's called the law of the herd. And this one is very exciting because it's rooted in human behavior. So here's the thing. Crypto, as we saw in the second law, is built on speculation. Speculation is not a logical human tendency. It's an emotional human tendency. So what happens, and we've seen this again and again, whenever a project drops a big announcement, people are uncertain how they should react to that news. So what they do is that people look to the behavior of others to dictate how they should be feeling. Because in a void, people do not know if it's bullish that this project decided to let go of their old chain and then migrate to a new chain. People don't know in a vacuum if that announcement of a CEO is stepping down is good or bad. So people will look for the behavior of others to dictate how they should feel. And we've seen this so many times. You can only have one source of truth. And if the source of truth does not come from the project itself, it'll end up coming from the community, which is even more irrational. I'll give you a couple examples. Just last week, we saw this big blockchain announce that the CEO was stepping down after 3 years and a half of building the company. And the token is at like $6 billion market cap. And then at first, you look at the comments of that announcement. People are like, congratulations, that's very good. But then something started to happen. Someone takes that post and quote retweets it and is like, so a founder raises millions of dollars, ships a product that no one uses, and then steps down and everyone is clapping for him. What has become of this industry? And this triggered a debate where all of a sudden the sentiment that started as, hey, congratulations for your next chapter, has now become a moment of great FUD, great uncertainty for the project. I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of that project. Again, that was because people were uncertain how to behave and how to react, but then they saw other people making a strong opinion that made sense. It started to spread. Same thing happened with the Azuki Elementals launch 2 years ago now. I remember I made a video about this and I was like, what flopped about this launch was the communication from the team. Because what happened is the team shipped the mint and then went silent. And then the community started to grow in anxiety, what was happening. And then you can see the timeline devolving into irrationality. This is what happened with the Azuki Elementals launch. The community took charge of the narrative. And the community oftentimes creates the most irrational of narratives. So the law of the herd says that in a vacuum, people will not know how to think for themselves. What this means for us is whenever we have these big launches, we need to architect and engineer the emotion that we want people to believe. For example, let's say I have a big trailer coming out for Unfungible. I want, before this trailer launching and after the trailer launching, I want to show proof of how I want people to behave and react to the trailer. So what I would do is before the trailer, I would take screenshots of people reacting to the trailer. Being like, yo, Leon, this is like, never seen this. This is Hollywood quality. And then I would screen record this guy reacting to the trailer, being like, whoa, this is amazing. And then after the trailer launches, I would take all the proof that reinforces that this is a great piece of content and I would post it on my timeline. And then if I want to go the extra step, I would pay influencers. Again, that's how I think about using influencer marketing. I would pay influencers to help amplify the positive signal that my trailer is getting. And that's how you turn from, cool, he's launching a trailer. It's a very neutral event into something that is very positive. That is a law of the herd. The fourth law that exists is that of hype decay. And this law is pretty self-explanatory, but it says that after every major launches, you will lose hype. This is a reality of the market. And what's happened is that we've seen teams unprepared for that moment all of a sudden succumb to it and fall for the negative sentiment that will always happen and be created if left unchecked and unprepared for. This is actually something that, whether I should share this or not, but Luca Netz, for example, was recently advising a project who's from a good friend of mine. And this project was launching on Abstract, which is a chain by Luca Netz. So Luca Netz wanted the project to win. One of the things that Luca Netz told this founder is that after mint, this is when marketing starts. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to time the post-launch of your project with a series of really big events. So do not launch before you have these launch events. So what that founder was forced to do is was forced to create the marketing post-launch before launch even happened. What a lot of projects do is that they launch and then they're like, okay, what do we do now? And then the what do we do now takes month. And then by that time, the community is confused, lost, and anxious. So you've lost already the community. So what you want to do is you want to acknowledge that you will have hype decay. The positive emotion that people have about your project leading into launch is going to disappear. How do you prepare for it is the real question. And this right here is the law of hype decay. Number 5, it's the law of belonging. Do you know what are the favorite words of crypto Twitter? The favorite words of crypto Twitter are the words eligible and check. So check if you are approved, check if your wallet has been submitted, check if you are on the wait list. Crypto is a very herd-driven mentality, and you've seen the herds. You never want to be the calf that is outside of the herd because you feel left out, and that's where things can get dangerous for you. And one of the best ways to use this very phenomenon is to make a place as part of your marketing to have your community be able to check their eligibility into your project. We recently saw Monad, just actually yesterday. What they did is they launched these cards that certain people were eligible and those who weren't had to be nominated. And then the only way for you to claim the badge was to share it on your social media. So all of a sudden, for a full day, Monad took over the entire timeline. And these were because this campaign had the words, check your eligibility, and then they had eligible. So whoever was eligible wanted to show their belonging into the thing that was deemed valuable and exciting. And that is how you hijack human nature by adding these words right here within the marketing. So the eligibility and the check. Law number 6, and this one hitchhikes on law number 5, which is the law of status signaling. Because crypto is very herd driven, what happens in herds is you have hierarchies. Certain people are always trying to find ways to justify their role and their position within the hierarchy, and others are trying to show where they are within that hierarchy. So based on this, when you give people the ability to check their eligibility, they will want to show this because it almost makes them feel approved and accepted within a certain caliber of society, if you want to look at it that way. Now, when you add a layer of status signaling to this, you all of a sudden get a marketing flywheel. The most viral apps that happen in crypto Twitter are the apps that allow to show people how famous, rich, and influential they are in the marketplace. If you think of Kaito, which took over, changed, completely revolutionized crypto, a big reason why it kicked off in the beginning is because they introduced the whole theme of smart followers. So you were either a smart follower or not. followers. And whenever you are a smart follower, you want to show it. And when you show it, you create free marketing for the company. The second thing that they introduced was the concept of YAP points, which are pretty much points that show how much reach you have. The more reach you have, the more yaps you can collect. So people all of a sudden started posting screenshots of how many yaps they have, their smart follower count, all of these things. And this is why this product went viral. It became number one. It's still one of the most used product that crypto has ever seen, in my opinion. So whenever you have the ability to introduce a way to allow people to status signal who they are, what they own, and how important they are in a way that is subtle, the fact that Kaito did it, they called it the YAP score, made it, humorous almost. So people wanted to share this. So whenever you can create leaderboards, create different ranks within your community, create certain roles that allow different people to rank higher within the hierarchy of your community. And then the final law is that of the law of game theory. Here's what I want to share. Imagine if crypto was a giant game. And in that game, you had all these players that are playing together or against each other with the same quest. And that is the quest of winning the game and making money, which is the ultimate objective of this game. There are two ways to attain this game. The first one is by attaining monetary gains. The second one is attaining influence gains. So these are the two things that drive people in crypto. People want to make money. If they can buy a token and sell it, they will. People want to gain influence. If they can gain followers, gain engagement, they will, because people attribute follower gain today as monetary reward tomorrow, which in crypto, it very much is. When you look at the crypto space's behaviors through this lens, you start understanding people's behaviors a lot better. When people see that this project is going to be a guaranteed monetary avenue for them, everyone will rally and go after this project and support this project, because that's how they see themselves being able to gain access to it. Now, here's a second interesting thing. The attainment of influence is also gained by speaking about projects, about hot topics. So the reason why people will go out and start making pieces of content about a project that they probably have no idea who it is, what they're doing, what they are, but people will still get out of their way and find a way to create content about this project, is because they believe that speaking about this topic will give them reach and awareness. People speak about what is trendy, because by doing so, they will gain impressions. They will gain the currency that they will one day want to monetize. So when you see people that are not incentivized to talk about a certain topic, you look at it and you're like, why are these people talking about this new project? The reason why is because these people are incentivized to do so because they will gain reach and influence by doing so. Now, there is an element of support and sense of belonging, but the support in crypto is very much transactional. The problem that people are trying to solve when they are part of crypto is they're trying to solve their financial needs, which is a very transactional need. No wonder people's behaviors in crypto is very transactional as well. And most founders understand that people will follow monetary gains, but they understand it less those who are seeking influence as part of their project. So when you combine a project that is a category leader with the law of leadership, that has a strong narrative and is building on top of a hyped narrative, then has positive herd sentiment towards it that includes gamified elements like those we found in the law of belonging and in the law of status signaling, you get something that will be conductive to the law of game theory, which says that people want to make money and they want to farm engagement. The first 6 laws create the 7th. And this is how you end up with a project that has the potential to take off like a rocket. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Leon Aboud. Let's make sure we are connected on X at LeonAboud_. And I shall see you in the very next video. Cheers. Bye-bye.